Okay, then I will call the May meeting of the Monroe County Election Board to order. The clerk is having some allergy-related voice issues and asked me if I would step in. As I told Kylie, I spoke all day with that kind of voice when I was teaching, so not a big deal. So we will go ahead with that. I will start with approval of the April 4th minutes.
I have read.
I'll move approval. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you go ahead, John. I can't see you, John.
My camera is on. It may be down there on the bottom somewhere.
You were here a minute ago and now you're gone.
I can see my camera here, but anyway, if you can hear me, I will make a motion that we approve the minutes.
I will second that motion.
Okay, you're back on the screen, by the way.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks for the warning.
I didn't say that. Okay, so I will move that they be accepted. He made the motion. I will second that. I'm so sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Since someone's participating electronically, state law requires us to do a roll call vote for these votes.
Oh, please escape.
Oh, okay. Then, Mr. Fernandez? We have to take
Yes.
a roll call, yes.
Yep.
Clerk
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Any public comment about that? Right, we move on to the clerk's legislative update.
Do you want to approve the minutes for the April 7th meeting?
Oh, well, that was our, I'm sorry, yes. I move approval of the April 7th minutes as well.
Second.
Second. Okay. I'll call the question. Mr. Fernandez?
Yes.
Clerk Brown?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Now,
Now, if you would like the clerk's legislative update.
Yes.
I want to apologize in advance for my voice, so embarrassing, but I'll do the best that I can. I want to address the bills that have gone through and are awaiting, either have been signed by the governor or are awaiting signature by the governor. The first one, House Bill 1679, which is the Secretary of State's bill. It has been signed by the President of the Senate, so it would be on its way to the governor's office. That is one that had the clerk's ask in them, and the clerk's ask included moving the date of the presidential certification up to September 1st. This past year, it had been September 20th. That leaves us a very, very narrow window to get our ballots ready for absentee and overseas and military voting. So we are incredibly grateful to the Secretary for including our ask in that bill. We also have that the clerk is relieved from any judicial responsibilities on Election Day, because not in Monroe County, we're very lucky here, but there are some counties that are not as fortunate as we are to be closed on Election Day. And so that clerk is then forced to choose between their judicial responsibility and their election responsibility. And so now the legislation says that the clerk is excused, the clerk's office is closed in those counties, and that if there is any county government employee in those counties who wants to serve as a poll worker, they have to be excused with pay so that they can serve as a poll worker. And we again thank the Secretary for doing that for us. I will move on then to House Bill 1680, which was actually the Indiana Election Division bill carried by the House of Representatives, where Chair Tim Wesco, and that bill has also been signed by the President of the Senate, which is on its way to the governor's office. Senate Bill 10, that was one that I brought up to you in previous meetings, because with this bill, we will no longer be able to accept a student ID as an acceptable means of identification for a student to vote who is at the university. That bill has been signed by the governor. Senate Bill 137 is voter registration. It requires the Bureau of Motor Vehicles to notify the Election Division if a voter registration form being transmitted is for an applicant who was issued a temporary credential, and that is an effort to keep non-citizens from voting in elections. Just prior to this meeting, I was asked about Senate Bill 287. So between my colleague and myself on the election board, I learned that Senate Bill 287 is awaiting the governor's signature. That's the school board bill, and that is the one where they were talking about, help me if I say it wrong, but whether the candidate will identify their political affiliation if they are running, and they have the choice to either tell their political affiliation, say that they are not affiliated, or choose not to disclose their political affiliation. Is that how you understand?
That is my understanding from texting with Representative Hall. But it sounds to me, as we've talked about, you can now declare if you want, but you don't have to, so nothing has really changed.
So thank you for helping me to get that information. And then Senate Bill 526 is one where the state is looking at the different equipment and its ability to retract a ballot. So for example, if someone should pass away prior to Election Day, we cannot legally count that person's ballot. We do have to remove that out of the count. And every system, as I understand it, working on the Clerks Association, every system has the ability to retract. Not all of those have been certified by the state, but everybody can prove, a means to remove that ballot from the state. Here in Monroe County, what we have been doing is the envelopes, those of you who have taken your ballot and put it in an envelope because you voted early, you seal it up, and we put those under double lock and key until the time that we can pull them out. If anyone has passed away, we have stored them alphabetically, and we can go and pull that voter's ballot out. We do not look at it. For those of you who are concerned that we're looking at how people voted, that does not happen. I don't know of any county clerk that is interested in doing that with all of the tasks that they have on their plate getting ready for the election and on Election Day, but we need to be able to prove that we can take that ballot out. So those are the legislative updates that I have, but I also I reached out to our lobbyists and asked, because people are concerned about the executive order that's been issued at the federal level, as well as the SAVE Act. So I'm going to quote verbatim his email. The SAVE Act is still currently pending in the Senate for consideration, but it has already passed the House. And then the President's executive order is under injunction due to ongoing litigation, which means it is not effective or enforceable until the courts make a final decision. I happened to be at an election conference last week where we had the opportunity to speak to an attorney, and they are answering very few questions about the president's executive order. So you should know, we all will find out when what becomes of that based on the lawsuit that is going on at this time. And with that, unless you have questions, that's all I have for the legislative update.
No questions. I think, is there any public comment about legislation? And so we'll move on to Vote Center Committee update.
I'm going to guess that Ms. Kylie will give us an update, but we also have.
Okay, I'll let Ms. Kylie do that as well.
Yeah, so first up was the public hearing recap. So we had the public hearing on April 7th. We had 50 community members who showed up in person with an additional 30 plus online. 22 individuals gave a public comment at the hearing, and most in support of vote centers. Public comment is being collected until 11:59 p.m. on May 18th. The second public hearing will be held on May 19th here in the Nat U. Hill room. We also had gone to a county council meeting that was on April 22nd. While there, we didn't we got to give them more of our budgets and all of the different numbers that we have came up with, and we also have started to work on breaking it down to other numbers of early voting locations so that the election board has those to take into consideration as well if they choose to go that way. The county council seemed to be mostly on board with vote centers, but they decided that they did not want to take a vote on the resolution at that meeting, so they did put us on the agenda for the next county council meeting to be in attendance for that one.
Yeah, I'd say specifically they were sort of advised by their council, like, since it is a fiscal decision that they wanted to make, because as per statute, they will need to approve it for the packet. And so in order to make this as streamlined as possible, they plan to have it on their agenda for the meeting after our meeting.
And then the next part that I have under there is the number of location cost update. I give you guys a few different tables in your packets today. Those tables include going with a 29 location setup, a 22, and a 20 location setup. I broke those down by it's not an exact number of how many workers would be at each location. It's an estimate of what we would generally do based on the size of those locations, and then give you a estimate of the cost for poll workers versus 29, 22, or 20 locations.
Yeah, and I want to jump in and say also that I circulated via email everyone the slides from the county council, which shows the fiscal impact over the quadrennium cycle, and so the numbers that are in the report but are reflected in that thing is 5% total increase in costs and a 1.3, I think, percentage increase if we went down to 22 vote centers in terms of costs. And just in terms of procedure, the reason why we're providing you with these additional costs is the election board can approve with revisions. So we are preparing and have prepared a 22 plan, which is useful so that the election board has that information as well.
And then inside of that packet, I also have given a cost of equipment breakdown of the 29, 22, and 20 locations so that we see the difference of cost based on how many locations we do go with. And then the graph after that will be a early voting staffing numbers. That is if the election board decides to add the 3 additional early voting locations in addition to vote centers. I did a breakdown of that, of how much it would cost to open those 3 extra locations, 10 days, the last 10 days of early voting, in addition to our regular 28-day early voting location.
Yeah, and just in terms of clarification, the vote center plans only cover election day, but we were asked to make recommendations about what we thought would be most helpful. So that wasn't part of our initial fiscal impact, but we wanted people to have an idea of how much that would cost the county in terms of cost.
And then you will have one more chart in there that is the voter registration and election budget. I was asked by both the Vote Center Committee and a couple other community members who had looked at the plan for what the cost was 2022, 2023, and 2024, so they could do a breakdown of subtracting ballots and different items that we would not be using if we were a Vote Center community.
So the only thing that I would say, first, thank you for your hard work on this. I appreciate it so much. I'm guessing that our member who isn't able to be with us today didn't get a copy of the...
I forwarded him a copy before the meeting today.
Okay, because I can see you listening intently, but I didn't know if he was following along with what you sent, so I was just going to ask you to make sure he got a copy, but it sounds like you're already good, Chairman Fernandez. And then The only other thing that I would say is to just remind everyone that when it's a municipal year, then it would be, the numbers are great, thank you so much, but to remind everyone that we would get some reimbursement, not all, but some reimbursement by the city for having put on that election. So if you look at the number and you have sticker shock, we would be getting a percentage of that back, and it's based on a formula that's created at the state level that tells you how much you can get back of the expenditures.
And then I will make a comment on that last table of the election budget for the 2024 election cycle. The ballot section, it says that it was a $35,000 cost. There was a second bill that was sent after the beginning of the new year that is not on this. And so that number does not accurately reflect for the 2024 election cycle.
Yeah, and I think the only thing I'll add from the county council meeting also is that we did have conversations about existing funds, for example, for election equipment that are already allocated into the budget. So when we look at how this looks on the ground, we have, and I'm just quoting in terms of about 25,000 that is we were saving to fix some of our existing equipment. We don't know yet if we will need to do all of that. So that was an additional 25,000 that would go towards that expenditure that wasn't included in that original 5% cost, as well as included in that, you can see the HAVA grant that's also included. And there was a conversation about using additional balances that might exist through interchanging between different lines. Several of the county council members asked about those kind of questions, but particularly Marty Hawk wanted to make sure that we continued to have many of those balances available, since as the clerk mentioned, there are rather large fluctuations in this particular budget, and people wanted it to have a nice healthy padding as opposed to other ones where we particularly push them towards that. So just to say that there was that conversation. And then one other update, which I hope Kylie is okay with me saying, is I asked her for how many people have filled out the survey about their opinions on vote centers, and currently we have about 50.
Yeah, so currently we have
50.
Okay.
There,
Yeah. I don't know if you have an update from that, but
yeah, so on the digital, there has been 54 submissions. I know that Nicole has an additional 10 that have been emailed directly to her, and I do plan to get with her this next week to start creating a binder of the ones that she's receiving. And then I'm going to go back, because I know that there was a couple that was sent to the election board that I will also print to put in that binder as well. And then of that 54 digital comments, we currently have 83% that has voted yes to vote centers, 9% has voted no to vote centers, and 8% has voted yes with changes. Most of those changes state that they would like to see fewer locations to cut the cost of equipment. And then the last section under Vote Center Study Committee is the mailer quote. In your packets, there is a...
Excuse me. Hey,
Yes.
Before we do that, yeah, I had my hand up, probably couldn't see it, but I do want to ask a few clarifying questions. If we go back to the cost of equipment, just to make sure everyone's on the same page. So I'm looking at page 6, cost of equipment. That's the incremental cost, right? So that would be new expense on top of our average election expense. Is that correct?
if I'm understanding your question, yes. So that would be if we looked at all the money that we spent over a 4 or 8 years, that overall cost increase would be 5%, is how we looked at it. So total over that time period would be 5%. Does that answer your question, Don?
No,
Okay.
but that's helpful information. No, I'm just looking at the page 6 of the packet where it has the 4 tables with cost of equipment. That's a one-time incremental increase in the cost of administering the election. Is that right? That equipment?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and then I guess it's more of a comment than a question. I appreciate that the committee was asked to provide the additional information regarding early voting staffing and early voting expenses. If there was I assume maybe an alternative or potentially in addition to vote centers. Just as one member of the board, I think as we move forward to any kind of concluding decision regarding vote centers, I would recommend that we stay focused on vote centers and deal with early voting options as a totally separate thread. Because as I understand, we don't, we have the capacity, we have the authority to have voting centers. The early voting. It's not the same thing as going to a vote center county. Statutorily, that's a very different question that requires unanimous support, et cetera. So I think that, as we go forward, to stay focused on the question at hand might help us from just a decision-making perspective and public information perspective. And that was more of a comment than a question, but I do have one more question, and that's on the election cycle cost on page 8. Can someone? Yeah. So I guess. Oh well, I think I misread it. I mean, my eyes are bad, but I'm just really surprised that the cost of a municipal cycle is almost the same as the 22 cycle. I mean, what was going on there? Is it the additional counter? Well, no, that's only $500. I'm just wondering how it could be so relatively high compared to a non-presidential year that's countywide.
I know that the municipal election of 23 also included the referendum from the MCCSC. I believe that might have had some of the cost influx on that, generally because the countywide election would be, I would have to go back to another municipal year and do the comparison there.
That makes sense. That makes sense. So you would have had more precincts than you typically would for purely a municipal election, because there's a number of precincts outside the corporate limits.
Yes,
that are still within the MCCC. Yeah.
That and a lot of MCCSC school district also splits some of our precincts, so then that does increase the number of ballots that are printed due to there being different varieties of the ballot per precinct with it being split.
Okay. And then just a question, this may be a question for Molly or Kylie, but I apologize for asking this because I should know this from the statute, but I mean, the legal responsibility for administering elections sits with the Monroe County Clerk's office and the election board. Is the contribution from Ellettsville and the city of Bloomington, that's in the statute in terms of a formula on what they pay, or is that just an interlocal agreement?
It's definitely statutory. There's not an interlocal agreement. I don't know how it's calculated.
Well, the 23 election would have had every place, except the RBB districts. I don't know how many, there are, but is the cost the same if we have one person show up to vote or 1,000 people show up to vote in any precinct? Cost doesn't change, does it?
No, the cost does not change because right now we're currently printing the ballots beforehand. So you're still printing a ballot for every registered voter in that precinct, no matter what.
Okay.
Which is required by statute.
Right,
You have to prepare as though 100% of the voters will turn out.
So if there was one voter that showed up versus every voter in that precinct, the cost is
Cost
still
is the
going to be the same.
So a better comparison might be the
Yeah.
19 election.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's where some
Yeah,
of the costs.
absolutely, Dan.
Oh, go ahead, John.
No, I think that you're absolutely right, Dan. I think that's why it was such a higher cost in 23. But it's also a good example of why vote centers are a smart way to go.
Okay.
Anything else?
I was going to say, do you want to go back to the postcard?
That's where I was going next to you. That's the mailer quote we're talking?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
So there is a image in that packet for you guys that is the postcard. The top portion will be the main information. The bottom portion is going to be the back side of the postcard. That'll be where the address is. When working with the vendor that we currently work with, which is Midwest Mail, they suggested that we do one to every residential address instead of one to every voter, because we do currently have 88,000 registered voters versus 65,000 residential addresses. So that was to cut the cost a little bit on that. And then was there any other questions on the postcard? Is there any changes that you guys would like?
I don't have any,
This is a wonderful opportunity to give a shout out to our vendor, Midwest Presort. We have been working with them for a long time. The previous, they had an original contract with the previous Monroe County clerk. Ms. Kylie and I met with them, and I made very, very clear, as I promised you I would do, that we absolutely needed the very best discount we could bring to Monroe County so that we could alert every household. And so I believe when we talked about it yesterday, it's 36 cents per household. That's not even half of a first-class stamp if you've had to mail a bill lately. So I thought he gave us a $3,000
$3,300 discount off of the original cost.
on top of the original cost, plus we lowered the cost by only sending to households as opposed to every voter. So we really got this down to rock bottom. But in exchange for that, I mean, they need a very quick turnaround. So unless you have an issue with the postcard itself, we'd like to be able to get that going so that they receive that postcard ahead of the next public meeting, since it has the QR codes.
I'm just a little bit confused. The postcard we're talking about is to get them to vote in the general election, correct?
No, we have no elections this year.
Right.
This is for the public comment so that they have the information of
Okay,
where
I
to
misunderstood
go.
a little bit. Okay,
Yeah.
that makes some sense. I
So
thought we were talking about getting the postcard out to, this is where you vote. I understand that now.
So this one is going to have both the QR codes for the website that has all of the information, including the plan on there, for voters to be able to go directly to that to read the plan, and then also there they can submit their public comment.
Well, I'm good. I understand. I thought we were talking about the other
I'm
thing we
sorry.
talked about. We're good.
What did I
You're fine.
say that?
No, we're good. We had talked about, I thought, about sending them out where you would vote in the election versus this card.
And in 2026,
That's
I'll be
okay.
circling back to
I
you for
got
that
you.
conversation.
I got you. We're fine.
And then this postcard also has the information of when the second hearing is, and it does also have where citizens can come in and drop off in person or mail their public comments to us.
So do we need a motion to send these cards out?
Yeah, a motion from the election board approving that we will send these out.
I'm fine with, I'll make a motion, we send the cards out.
I'll second.
Second.
Ashley?
Mr. Fernandez? The question.
Yes.
Yes.
Clerk?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes as well.
Thank you. And that is the end of the Vote Center Committee update.
Hey, do we have any general public comment?
Hello.
Sign in.
There is no sign-in sheet.
You're fine.
Okay. Did you say general public comment?
Yes.
And perfect. Well, my name is Trondon Wright Randolph. I'm the elected Monroe County surveyor. I will actually speak to the discussion that just was had. I want to say that I am a supporter of vote centers. I'll let everyone else tackle the financial fiduciary matters around that, but just overall, I am in support of vote centers. I'm also been with the county for 20 years as of March 21st, so I've been around for quite some time, seen a lot of elections, and really see the value of having a few vote centers in the county. But again, I'll let the folks studying and the experts weigh in on that. So it's pretty easy for me just to say I'm in support. There's a lot more to it. But what I am here for is some good news. Within my role as county surveyor, the GIS division was restructured in 2019. I've been increasing the collaboration from a technology standpoint ever since I came to the county in 2005. With that restructuring and having a team now to kind of pursue some collaborative measures, I entered in one of our projects here with Election Central in the election board, and to the Indiana Geographic Information Council. And what is that? That's the Indiana Geographic Information Council, is a nonprofit organization leading the effective applications of geographic information in Indiana. So it's a great organization for that space. I entered in the Monroe County live election data dashboards where we were able to track early voting, also county-wide and precinct level data from kind of the election results. That was awarded Excellence in GIS from Indiana Geographic Information Council. And I wanted to invite somebody from the election board or voter registration to come and receive the award with the team that we have that put this project together. That will be at the Union Station in Indianapolis during the IJIC conference, May 22nd at 1 p.m. And just let us know if someone's interested, and we'll do the rest on the backside. So I just really wanted to bring some more attention and really focus on, how cool this is and how this really reflects the effort of collaborative measures and working with our colleagues across departments and offices. So thank you for your time today.
Well, first,
and any questions for sure.
First, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
You and I have had many discussions, and I absolutely respect, admire, and just appreciate the opportunity that I have to work with you professionally. So a heartfelt congratulations from the Monroe County Clerk's Office. Given that I will be headed to an Alaskan cruise on that date, I am going to nominate, if she is willing to accept, my election supervisor to come and join you in accepting that honor, and just thank you. That's a very nice surprise. I had no idea. Were you holding it as a surprise?
I was, and I wanted to kind of come here and, let everyone kind of hear it, get a little more public attention around it, and just, it's a nice space to share.
I know the hard work that your office did. We're incredibly grateful. And so, Ms. Kiley, if you will accept that, I would be very grateful.
Yes, I will. I also want to say thank you so much for working with us over the past couple of years, especially last year, and getting that turned around in such a short amount of time, and working with us just as much as we possibly could to make sure that it was going to work out smoothly. And I look forward to working with you guys in the future.
Awesome. Just one, thank you so much, and thank you so much for the kind words. Clerk Brown and Kylie, thank you. I want to just make one more note. We're actually going, our coordinator, Dr. John Baton, is actually going to do a session on what we did to achieve this. And so there might be other counties around the state that might feel like this is a good opportunity for their county to showcase election data too. So it just is a really great project, and I think it's going to really turn out to be something special in years from now. So thank you.
Thank you.
Or any other public comment? Seeing none, I guess I could entertain a motion to adjourn.
Before you do,
Would you announce something?
Would you announce just the next meetings?
Okay, sure. The vote center meeting will be, the next one will be Wednesday, May 7th, so that's next Wednesday at 4 o'clock in the Showers building. And then the vote center hearing will be Monday, May 19th at 5:30. And then the next election board meeting, June 5th at 1:30, right back here. And for the record, Miss Kylie, it makes your teacher smile to see those charts you put together.
Thank you.
And then I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay. Mr. Fernandez, your vote?
Aye.
Okay, now you can go back to your real job. Clerk Brown?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Meeting is adjourned.